You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Welcome back to the show. My name is Chase Sr. Hopefully everybody out there is having a fantastic weekend, and thanks for stopping on by as we talk some birds. Coming up here on the show, 2025 breakout candidates for Philadelphia. I'm going to list 5 players, and I also want to mention this right off the top. I'm not going to list any rookies because how can a rookie break out? Really, it's anybody after year one is kind of how I go about this. And I think the top breakout candidate for the Eagles is defensive tackle Moro Ojomo. He is in store, I believe, for a monster 2025. And I have 5 reasons why I think that he can really break out. There's going to be an increase in snaps for him to replace Milton Williams, who got paid by the New England Patriots, $26 million per year for the former third-round pick out of Louisiana Tech. I also think he is one of the more underrated players on this Eagles team and across the National Football League. He was drafted late out of Texas a few years ago, and he was looked at as a little bit of a developmental player, and so now he's only 23 years old. And I think that he's coming into form where he could start playing his best football because it took him a little bit to get acclimated with the NFL. But with the traits, he's quick, he's explosive, he's really physical. One of those quick and explosive defensive tackles, always hovering around 300 pounds or just under 300 pounds, really started to come on last year. And I think that Moro Ojomo has a chance to be better than Milton Williams. You heard me right. Mark it down and archive it. Last year, look at his numbers and keep in mind that he was 64th among 219 defensive tackles in pass rush snaps with 268. So that number here is going to go up. His overall PFF grade, 68. That's in the green. That was 39th among 219 players at the position. His pass rush grade, though, was 82.6. That is 5th among 219 interior defensive linemen. You know who was number 2nd? Milton Williams. He had 26 hurries. That was top 25. And he had 31 pressures. That was 35th. And then you take a look at this. Pass rush win rate from 2024. Milton Williams was at 17.6% on 418 pass rushing snaps. Moro Ojomo was better at 18.2 on 342 pass rush snaps. Ojomo at 18.2% for the pass rush win rate was the best along the Eagles' defensive line. Look out for him to really make a name for himself outside of Philadelphia because the real ones know in 2025. Breakout candidate number 2 is cornerback Kelee Ringo, who the Eagles traded up for on day 3 of the NFL draft a couple of years ago. And I think the Eagles do such a good job of looking into the future and drafting players early to be replacements later. The Eagles knew Darius Slay was getting a little bit older. And for Kelee Ringo, he had a porous final season at Georgia. But if he were to have come out and declare for the NFL draft a year prior, he could have been a 1st or 2nd round pick. And so I think Ringo can break out because he's the leader right now in the clubhouse to replace Big Play Slay. The Eagles are very high on him. When we were at the Super Bowl and Christian Parker was talking about DBs who are next up, he mentioned Kelee Ringo. Isn't this crazy too? Ringo is only 22 years old. He's going to turn 23 this summer. There are players in the NFL draft, multiple of them, who were drafted a couple of weeks ago in April for the 2025 draft at 24, 25 years old. Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, Vanilla Gorilla for the Eagles. He's 24. Tyler Shuck is going to be 26 years old soon. He was a 2nd-round pick by the New Orleans Saints. And with Ringo's game, he has speed, length, and physicality. And if this defensive line eats, the secondary in turn can eat as well. And as we sit here in the middle of May, Quinyon Mitchell going into his sophomore campaign, he's going to start on the outside. I think Kelee Ringo starts on the other outside, at that outside corner spot. I think it's best to keep Cooper Jean inside. I know he's an athletic freak who earned a 9.85 on his relative athletic score, and he ran a 4.4, and he's super explosive. But I just like keeping DeJean on the inside at that slot nickel role because you can continue to use him in a versatile way where he could be the chess piece for your defense. And for Kelee Ringo, the size at the NFL Combine, 6'1", 207 pounds, and he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash. And so he has the size, speed, physicality component to his game. And when he has played, and it hasn't been a lot, obviously, to start his NFL career, I think he's actually played some pretty damn good football. So what do you think? Who is your biggest breakout candidate for the Eagles here in 2025? I want you to drop me a name or names down in the comment section right now. This next player might surprise some people, but I'm going to roll with Will Shipley at that running back spot. He is the RB2 behind Saquon Barkley. It is not A.J. Dillon. And Will Shipley showed me some flashes in the preseason last year, catching the ball out of the backfield, running with physicality, good pass blocker, able to run in between the tackles. I like the patience. I like the vision. I like the physicality, the contact balance that he can play with. Obviously, in the regular season, he didn't play that much because Saquon Barkley led the NFL in carries. Shipley had 30 totes for 82 yards, a long of 9. But in the NFL playoffs, he also showed a little bit of something. And how about the athleticism? It's underrated for him. 9.58 on the relative athletic score coming out of Clemson. And when the Eagles took him, I kind of called him a poor man's Christian McCaffrey. He has that type of game. 4.45 speed, elite in the 20-yard split, 10-yard split, the shuttle, the three-cone, the vertical, just under 39 inches, the broad, over 10 feet. And with the height weight at running back, 5'10", 206, that's good enough. And look at how he compares. Will Shipley against other average running backs from 1987 to 2024. The average relative athletic score, 508. Will Shipley, 958, and so much better in a lot of those categories. And here's another reason why I'm picking Will Shipley to break out. I do think that he's going to get a decent share of carries at RB2. The Eagles have to manage Saquon Barkley's carries a little bit. They signed him to that huge and historic record-breaking contract extension, and the last 4 rushing champs have had a big drop-off the following year. And it all started with Derrick Henry in 2020 and in 2021. And he won the rushing championship in back-to-back years. So on the second rushing title, that was in 2020, look at how he fared that year. Led the league in carries with 378. Led the NFL in rushing yards with more than 2,000. Led the NFL in rushing touchdowns with 17. Led the NFL in rushing yards per game at 126.7. And he averaged that year 5.4 yards per carry. Won the rushing crown. The following year, 219 carries, 937 yards, 10 touchdowns, 117.1 rushing yards per game, 4.3 yards per carry. The numbers went down drastically, and the game's cut in half, from 16 to 8. Then there's Jonathan Taylor. Won the rushing title in 2021. Led the NFL in carries with 332. Led the NFL in rushing yards with 1,811. Led the league in rushing touchdowns with 18. Led the NFL in rushing yards per game at 106.5 and averaged 5.5 yards per carry. The following year, the numbers go down again. 192 carries, 861, 4 touchdowns, 78 rushing yards per game, 4.5 yards per carry. The year that he won the rushing crown, he played 17 games. The year after, only 11. Josh Jacobs won the rushing title in 2022. 340 carries, led the NFL, of course, with 1,653 yards, had 12 touchdowns, led the NFL in rushing yards per game at 97.2, averaged 4.9 yards per carry. It was a big contract year for him. The Raiders didn't give him an extension, and he didn't have a good year in 2023. 233 carries, 805 yards, 6 touchdowns, 61.1 rushing yards per game, or 61.9, with 3.5 yards per carry. He played in 17 games the year that he led the NFL in rushing, 13 games the following year. And then this past year, Christian McCaffrey, we didn't see him. In 2023, he was spectacular. More than 2,000 all-purpose yards, had 272 carries, led the NFL with 1,459 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, 21 total, that tied for the NFL best, 91.2 rushing yards per game, 5.4 yards per carry. And last year, he had to deal with bilateral Achilles tendonitis, and then he hurt his knee. And he was limited to 50 carries for 202 yards, did not find the end zone once, 50.5 rushing yards per game, only 4 yards per carry. He played 4 games a year after winning NFL Offensive Player of the Year when he played 16 games. And so for Saquon Barkley, he led the NFL in carries. He led the NFL in rushing yards. It was an incredible year. 345 carries, more than 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns on the ground. He was the most dominant offensive player in football. He was one of the best all-around players in football. I think he should have won MVP. But he'll turn 29 in February. He's got a lot of tread on the tires. He has an injury history. And so I think the Eagles will have to rely a little bit more on Will Shipley, and that's why Will Shipley is a breakout candidate. If you want a Saquon Barkley jersey, good job by producer Chip. He's right on it. Head to chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. You can get something other than a Kelly Green Saquon jersey. Midnight green, white, black, all types of different sizes available, men's, women's, kids. You can find the whole lineup of Philadelphia Eagles jerseys. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics at chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. I'm going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Eagles Now. There are also some former Eagles legends, and you can get those jerseys too. One more time, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. We appreciate Fanatics for hooking all of you up. Breakout candidate number 4, right guard Tyler Steen. It's a huge year coming up for him, and he has an opportunity as a former third-round pick to secure the starting spot, flanking Lane Johnson and Cam Jurgens. Going to be competing, I would imagine, with Trevor Keegan, Kenyon Green, maybe Cameron Williams if he moves inside the 6th-round pick, Miles Hinton, a 6th-round pick, Holland Pierce, a UDFA. There are players who Tyler Steen can compete against. But to start camp and to start the offseason, the job is his. I thought what Jason Kelce said this offseason was pretty notable. He just needs to be more consistent. At times, he's looked really good. At times, he's had lapses. And when you look at some of the PFF numbers from last year, when he had to fill in, he didn't play all that well. Now, when he filled in at times, I thought at times he played well. In the NFL playoffs, when Landon Dickerson was dealing with that injury, Tyler Steen comes in, he played bully ball. But the Pro Football Focus number is not great. You know, in the regular season, had an overall grade of 40.6, pass blocking grade of 37.7, a run blocking grade of 50.6. He played 122 snaps at left guard, 173 at right guard. The good news is that he gave up no sacks and no hits. And I think the Eagles are high on him because they know there's a foundation of skills to work with, and the Eagles had the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Jeff Stoutland. But Tyler Steen at Vanderbilt and Alabama was an offensive tackle. So the athleticism is certainly there. He earned a 994 relative athletic score grade at 6'6", 321 pounds, 31 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press with a vertical of 29.5, a broad jump of more than 9 feet, and a really good shuttle. The skill set is there. And for him now going into year 3, a wonderful opportunity at his fingertips. And then breakout candidate number 5 is Sidney Brown. Like Tyler Steen, has an opportunity to really earn a sizable role and a starting role for the defending Super Bowl champions. Sidney Brown in the pre-draft was a player who I really liked coming out of Illinois. 5'10", 211 pounds, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, plays with a lot of physicality. Last year, obviously, he didn't play all that much. He did miss some time to start the year coming off that ACL. Once he came back, he was an excellent special teams player. As a rookie, we saw some flashes of the player that he can become when he had to play and was thrust into that starting safety role, but then he tore his ACL in the regular season finale on that awful criminal turf at MetLife Stadium against the New York Giants. But he hits hard. He has pretty good range, plays like his hair is on fire, shot out of a cannon. At times, misses tackles. At times, over pursues. He has to harness that a little bit, but then there were the pluses of the big hits, making plays against the run, being used as a blitzer from time to time. The damn near 100-yard pick six against Kyler Murray. It's not going to be easy for Sidney Brown to start alongside Reed Blankenship because the Eagles are also very high on their second-round pick, 64th overall selection, Andrew Makuba out of Texas, who I said it right when the Eagles drafted him. He really is a C.J. Gardner-Johnson clone. We'll see what happens with Justin Simmons. I think the Eagles are going to give Brown and Makuba an opportunity to earn that starting role, but maybe Simmons is signed as a veteran. Maybe he's signed if those young players do struggle. So let me know, did I miss anybody as far as breakout candidates? I was thinking on offense, there's really not a player who can break out outside of Will Shipley and Tyler Steen. Defensively, that's where more players factor in.